I do? The whole situation is so confusing. Good plan. Impossible things don't just happen.
Just relax. Even if everyone else besides, I doubt Farina understands anymore.
Thanks, Navia.
Best of luck to you.
Ah, finally, you're back. Well, how did your...
To be honest, you might...
No. We're already very grateful that you were willing.
Well now, don't you all look disappointed? Don't tell me that was to be expected, of course. The guilty can never produce proof of their innocence. But don't let that stop you. I shall be terribly disappointed should you,
Since both parties are present, I declare that the trial regarding the match... Firstly, in order for the audience to understand the causes and results of the incident.
Yes, of course. I will explain while Lynette demonstrates...
Thank you, Mr. Linney. In that case, I take your statement to be that you ran to and remained hidden within the magic box in the audience stands once the trick...
Yes, that...
In that case, I call upon the prosecution. Lady...
Why, of course I do. Allow me to take the first shot and break this case wide open. Mr. Linney is clearly lying. There is no way you could have been in the box the whole time if you were to abduct Halsey and...
That is simply your hypothesis based on the presumption.
Oh, is that so? And if I may ask, what...
The roaring countdown of the crowd, of course. That's how I kept track...
And you didn't hear anything else at all?
No, nothing.
I see. But when the count reached 30 seconds or so, there was a thud. One so loud that I believe practically
Huh?
Hey, hang on.
Yeah, I'm sure he could have heard a noise that loud from inside.
I was right by the box, and I definitely heard the...
Look at those scales. Could those be...
Well then, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to use the words of the magician himself. Of course, I have armed myself to do far more than smash your alibi. Confidence cannot go unfounded, and my foundations are rock solid. Tell me, aren't you and Lynette actually from the House of the Hearth?
The House of the Hearth?
No wonder they did something like this.
So the serial disappearances were the Fatsui's doing. Now it all makes...
I've got a feeling that what happened on stage probably...
That's irrelevant. Our identities have nothing to do with what happened.
Indeed. Then perhaps you could tell us everything. Your first priority is to prove yourself innocent after all. I'm sure there is... The Outlander is speechless. My, oh my, don't they look flabbergasted? Now comes the infighting and discord. Oh, good thing I made all those preparations. Seems the all-nighter I pulled last night is really paying off.
Hey, Linny, why did you...
Order! Order! Mr. Linney, allow me to reestablish the facts. First, when the thud was heard in the Opera House, you were neither in the box nor the tunnel. Are these claims true? Please answer my question, Mr.
I'm sorry. Yes, they're true, Your Honor.
I knew it!
Well, that's it. We might as well move on to this.
What should we do now?
Granted. In that case, what is your request?
Is that really necessary?
The defendant deceived their own attorneys. What if...
Order! Order, I say! Your request is reasonable, and we shall adjourn. This trial will reconvene...
So you would stick to Mr. Linney's defense even after knowing what you do now? In that case, my dear audience, let's must allow the joy of victory to steep for a little while longer.
Well, this is awkward. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Paimon just knew where to start. We based our entire reasoning on the assumption that you weren't bad guy. Not to set the wrong tone or anything, but
I'm very sorry. I know you're angry. I know you've clashed with the Fatui several times before. But our organization is very, very large, and the Harbingers have very different personalities and goals.
Right now, we want to save people. As many as we can.
That's right. I'm sure we're on the same page when it comes to this nation and the disaster that its people might face. I knew if it weren't for our respective identities, we could become good friends. That's why I didn't wish to flat out lie to you, but chose to hide some details instead. The truth is very important, but being completely transparent... Right. So, you be the judge. You met a Fatus who works as a magician, a trickster by trade, but still, I'm asking you to trust me.
Sorry. Please forgive us.
well, you both say that, but... Right, let's hear your answer first.
Of course. I'll answer it. We've been trying to find out how the Oratrice operates. We want to know. During our investigations, we learned that the machine's core is beneath it. From that moment on, Lynette and I have been designing this box swap trick, with the objective of getting close to the core.
Is that why you needed a whole ninja?
That's right. In truth, the audience would take about 75 seconds to count down from 60, while I would only need 15 to get to the opposite box. So, after jumping into the tunnel, I accessed the Opera House basement via the vent.
That air vent was created during the construction of the tunnel specifically to execute this step.
Well, nothing. As soon as I reached that room and was about to, which should have been impossible, of course, I was quite certain that I was the only one in the room. That voice seemed to recognize me and tried to speak to me. I chose to err on the side of caution and retreated the way I came. On the way back, I saw the broken... After that, the homicide occurred just as you said.
Well, that explains why you didn't hear the thud.
Because of that prophecy I told you about, of course. We must know all we can.
That's the only way we can save everyone.
So, there you have it. The whole truth. It was never my wish to proceed under this cloud, but like I said earlier, you can be the judge. If you want to leave because you don't trust the Fatui...
Well, Traveler, you decide. Paimon will follow your lead however you choose.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for giving us a chance.
The current problem is that the scales are tipped pretty badly against... If we want to refute the Hydro Archon's Huh?
Both parties have returned to their positions. Let us continue the trial. When last we left off, Mr. Linney acknowledged the new evidence presented by Lady Farina as fact. Therefore, Lady Farina may continue.
That took long enough. Now then, at this stage, let's revisit that scene from Linney's perspective. As the countdown began, he entered the tunnel. When the flatbed trolley passed, he opened the box and got into an altercation with He did not realize that this sound could be heard by everyone in the opera house, which finally, he used the vase to knock her out before making her change clothes to prevent other... At this time, Cowell arrived in the tunnel, having heard that strange noise. So Linney proceeded afterward. Linney passed the unconscious Halsey to his accomplice through the magic box. And there you have it.
Does the defendant's side have any objections to Lady Farina's?
The key to refuting Lady Farina is the order of events. What Linney experienced and what he saw. According to Lenny, Lenny went to... Lenny did not...
Attention! When the countdown started, Lenny did indeed go into the tunnel. But he immediately used a vent to access the Opera House basement, which is, once he reached that area, he heard a voice in what should have been the crime scene had already developed by the time he reached... Finally, he reached the surface, and that was when the accident happened.
In other words, you believe that he knew nothing.
That's right!
My reasoning?
If that's the case, then if Carol hadn't entered the tunnel, who was the... Assuming that what you say is true, Lenny only needed to kidnap the young girl to cause a new disappearance.
Oh.
That's right, you tell him! Oh, well, your denial is very strident, I'll give you that. But what proof do you have to back your claims? Of course I do. If he had been in the magic box the whole time, how could he have not heard that sound? You're saying that he wasn't?
Are you sure we don't need to give this more thought? Paimon thinks there's something up. That's right! Lenny wasn't in the box or in the tunnel. This means that when the crime happened, Lenny had already entered the base. The same clue you used to disprove his alibi has now become the...
Well played. To think you'd use such well then, if it wasn't Lenny who committed the crimes, then who was it?
The deceased's name is Cowell, Linny's assistant. He...
That can't be right. The killer was, in fact...
Oh, is that so?
What I must do next is recreate the truth. What Cowell did, and how he went from would-be perpetrator. No one entered or left the Opera House through its entrances. The deceased's name is Cowell, Linny's assistant. Halsey's clothing was in the tunnel, so there must have been some... The sound we heard may have come from a clash between the mist... Linny was not in the tunnel at that moment, which gave up... It would have been tough for both people to fit into that vent. They... The deceased's name is... Halsey's clothing was in... No one entered or... The deceased's name is... Halsey's clothing was in the tunnel. Linny was not in the tunnel at that moment. It would have been tough for both people to fit. Halsey's clothing was in the tunnel. No one entered or The deceased's name is Cowell. Halsey's clothing was in the... Linny was not in the tunnel at that moment. Halsey's clothing was in the tunnel. Linny was not in the tunnel at that moment. No one entered or... The sound we heard may have come from a clash between the missing Halsey. The sound we heard may have come from a... Linny was not in the tunnel. It would have been tough for both people. The deceased's name is Cowell. Linny was not in the tunnel at... No one entered or left the Opera House. It would have been tough for both people to... The deceased's name is Cowell. No one entered or...
What's wrong, Traveler? Are you still up?
I see how it is.
Look, since we're at a dead end, just like the trick as it transpired, the end was...
If only we knew how hopeless.
Well, that would be nice, but the tunnel only has 3 exits. And it's not like this is a magic trick where you can just make a real life...
Excuse my interruption, dear opponent.
If the defense is unable to make further effective arguments, we will move on to the next stage of the trial.
Linny was not in the tunnel at that moment, which gave our criminal ample time. The sound we heard may have come from a clash between the missing Halsey and the criminal. The deceased's name is Cowell, Linny's assistant. The vase was not broken by...
Lynette escaped. If there's a similar method...
Just a moment, please. How could a person ever be transformed into water? Must we? Magic tricks are ultimately just illusions and misdirection. But Halsey's disappearance...
Even so, the truth must be out there somewhere. Perhaps some new line of reasoning may open if we try. Since Cal was the deceased, we haven't placed much attention on him. But given that we aren't making much progress with the case, it wouldn't hurt to have a look at his belongings.
People really do come up with all sorts of harebrained schemes when at the end of their rope.
Nevertheless, I believe that this is a reasonable request on the part of an attorney. Since the trial does indeed appear to be at an impasse, I believe that additional guards, please step into the lab.
We are still examining the items, but we have already made critical progress. That we discovered several test tubes of fluid within Cowell's baggage, each labeled separately. The notebook in his backpack claims that these fluids are...
the primordial seed.
The note's contents also indicate that Cowell belonged to an organization that sells illegal drugs and that he had... The notebook has many entries. One of these tubes was labeled Opera. The notes also state that these dissolution property... As such, we believe that the defense is...
You've got to be kidding! People dissolving...
Could something so ridiculous...
Wait a moment. This reminds me of a certain prophecy, but...
If people can become water, does that mean that the water tank's real use was as a means to hide water stains? And if... Wait just a minute. Could that mean...
Demoiselle, wait! What about your partners?
Let's go. Just trust me.
Order! Order! It is undeniable that further examination of the deceased's personally... Still, let us assume that these clues are indeed authentic. Guards, please continue examining the items of Mr. Linney. It appears your hypothesis is supported by the evidence.
Of course, if we uphold this hypothesis, I believe that many of this case is seemingly
Right! Like the metal hook! That one didn't make sense at all. Let's think about this. Cowell's methods must have something to do with that water from...
The deceased's name is Cowell, Linney's assistant. Lynette was in the magic box on stage the entire... I remember there was something else within the inner... Lynette was in the magic... I remember there was something else within the inner layer of that box. I remember there was something... The water from the primordial... Lynette was in the magic box on stage the entire time. The rope that held the water tank up was lit by the fireworks and snapped. As such, Lynette was in the magic box on stage the entire time. Lynette was in the magic box. I remember there was something else. Now it seems like the hook rope was not meant for another magic trick. The rope that held the water tank up. Now it seems like the hook.
It's Ace Detective Paimon's time! In the original plan, Cowell would tamp... When the magic box containing Halsey was lowered, the metal hook would retract when the balloon attached to the box popped. Though afterward, Cowell would enter the tunnel and break the flower vase But he encountered something unexpected in the tunnel and wound up being fatally hit by the same...
But that actually links...
Now, it seems like the only point his notes mentioned he had an accomplice.
On that note, the guards have just... I shall now invite him on stage.
Thank you, Your Honor. We were just inspecting the lug, and we found an identical sample of the water from the primordial sea among Linny's personal effects.
What?
That can't be.
Oh, Ice does this not, my dear. Linny did not need to take part in the dissolution of the young woman at all, having made modifications to the props beforehand. But upon his return, ultimately, he knocked Cowell out. Now, as much as I regret having come to... Am I right?
We've used up all the evidence. Is this the end of the road?
Oh no. Seems using the water as new evidence was...
I think we've all seen enough now. I believe this is indeed... Now then, my good.
Excuse me, everyone.
Miss, I must ask you not...
Oh, come on. Don't be hasty. I have a good reason for interrupting, you know. I'll show you an amazing trick. One that can bring... What in the...
No offense, miss, but miracles...
Come on now, don't be silly. Magic is all about But once everyone believes the illusion, can't magic reveal the truth to them once again? And wouldn't such a trick be the most marvelous finale to today's performance? Come on, Lenny and Lynette. Give it another go. Don't worry. Spina di Rasula, but as the magic makers and stars of the show, I think I should leave the final performance to you.
I understand.
And voila.
Sorry.
Wait, isn't that Halsey?
To be clear, I'm only here because this person told me that if I testified, I was hiding outside this room listening to the proceedings because I was afraid that I would be the one. I was just feeling happy that no one had noticed me. And then before I knew it, she caught me.
That'll teach you to underestimate others.
Where should I begin? I'm sorry.
What?
Firstly, my name isn't Halsey. It's Lillian. And I heard that Linny's show was gonna be a real thriller, but I missed the chance to buy a ticket. That's how I make a living. I steal stuff here and there. And I'd never been caught before. But I was noticed at the harbor a few days ago, and I barely got away. Linny was the one who caught me.
Hey! No wonder you look familiar. Liddy even mentioned that you were pretty...
Well, and I thought that would have been the end of it, but then the number selector chose me. He even mentioned the Fortress of Meripede. That's a prison, isn't it? So you can imagine how shocked I was. I thought he was onto me for sure. So I played along with the show while looking for an opening to flee. But then I got water poured on me for no reason, and then someone... I wasn't going to take that lying down, so I knocked him out and stuffed him into the box. There was nowhere to run from there, though, so I had to change my clothes and hide in a box containing performance costs. I slipped out after the first guard arrived at the scene and continued hiding inside the opera house.
Can a person even hide in there?
But I swear I didn't know that the water tank would fall down. Really, I swear it. Had I known that, I wouldn't have put him in the magic box. I may be a thief, but...
Well, that makes everything pretty clear now, doesn't it?
This time, we need to tell the entire story. The strange sound. The flower. Lillian was.
And it's Ace Detective Paimon time! erupted out of the blue, Lillian panicked. Her panic only intensified after she entered the tunnel and had water poured on her head. So she kicked the door open. Hearing the commotion, Cowell leapt into the tunnel, only to discover that Lillian had... He did not know that Lillian was not from Fontaine, but was a thief, mistakenly believing that the water from the primordial sea needed time to take effect. The two broke the flower vase with no way of escaping. She knew that she would have to go through guard inspection if she tried to leave afterward.
She had already become desperately hungry by the time we were chatting over macarons. So, she swiped 2 of them right under our noses. Talk about...
At this point, all the...
Ah, so that...
Bravo!
Now then, Lady Farina, do you... Please answer the question, Lady Farina. Also, if I may add, the trial has not yet ended. As such, I request that the prosecution not leave the room before the proceedings have concluded.
What? Are you reading my mind now? No, I have no further arguments. I admit defeat. But really, could you...
Wow! Look at that!
If there are no objections, then as the Chief Justice of Fontaine, I shall once again repeat. The actual perpetrator of the serial disappearances, Cowell, selected his neck with some modifications to the selector. He could to cover up any evidence while committing the deed. Cowell thought he also tampered with the rope suspending the water tank. Using the fireworks at the end of he poured the water from the primordials. Finally, he passed the prepared hook on a rope through the gap in the magic box's door. When the magic trick officially began, the box containing the woman was lowered into the tunnel, tightening the hook rope and bursting. If all had gone to plan, the young woman would be dissolved at this time. Realizing that there was trouble, Cowell entered the tunnel and met Lillian. However, his opponent was more capable than he thought, and he was overcome, knocked unconscious, and placed into the... Lillian, according to her own statements. As for Linny, he was in the underground structures within the Opera House, and was thus ignorant of... From this reconstruction of events...
Hooray, Linny and Lynette!
While there is much in Linny and Lillian's conduct that should still be... This case, at least, can be handed over to the... As such, Linny and Lynette.
Great work, partners.
Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Next, I think we deserve an explanation. How did you find the water from the primordial sea in Linny's baggage?
Right! Your discovery caused me to make a serious mistake,
I suspect that the accomplice mentioned in Cowell's notes was not Linny. I'm sure you know what you must do to lessen your sentence.
Speak quickly! Unless you want to earn yourself a one-way ticket to Coupon Town.
I was just following. We were supposed to place blame for the serial disappearances onto Linny, and thus cause suspicion to...
And now that your plan has fallen through, therefore you would be wise to tell
Yes! Our boss discovered that the water can cause people to dissolve. It can also be made into a potion, which when extremely We've been in this business for a while now, and have made decent mora off it. The disappearances were also the boss's idea. I mean, this is the boss we're talking about.
And now he can no longer talk.
Such ruthlessness. I shouldn't have...
An outrageous. All present, please submit to inspection immediately.
So, we're just going back now? That's...
Traveler, Paimon, please wait.
Lenny.
I know you may not want to speak to me right, but still. Let me thank you again for defending me to the end, even after you learned that I'm a member of the Fatui. I guess. But regardless, I'd like the opportunity. I didn't approach you with any ulterior motives or ill intent. As for why I'm a Fatus, it's because the goals of the House of the Hearth align with those. That was how Father, who you might know as the Knave, approached recruiting.
The Knave? The one who controls the House of the Hearth? She's...
That's right. And since we're back when our parents first died, Lynette and I were left to survive. I took to surreptitiously observing an old... I took my sister through several streets until we found a crowd. To my surprise, we proved to be pretty popular, and we could at least stop worrying about what. Before long, an aristocrat came to me and claimed that he would...
So you went from orphans to nobility?
That was how we felt at first, too. As if fate was on our side. But I gradually discovered that while we were called foster children, he would constantly take me to all sorts of banquets to garner attention.
That doesn't seem too bad either. Better...
It took a while for me to realize just how, after one particular performance at a banquet, I discovered that Lynette. I waited a long time after we returned home, but she did not come back. The answer he gave me was, she caught the eye of the most eminent person at the banquet, so I...
Oh no. But what if I...
As far as outsiders are concerned, this is a relationship akin to adoption. I managed to ferret out the location of the mansion of that so-called eminent. All I saw was the moonlit ground covered in blood. And the Knave...
So, she'd already...
That's right. She had rescued my sister before she could come to any harm, and had even discovered the Knave, might have seen something in me. The House of the Hearth welcomes you, for your interests align with ours. Here, none will ever betray you. I was hesitant to trust her. I had just been betrayed by nobles. But she was also quick to destroy the noble who had taken us in at first.
Oh, so that's how the two of you joined the House of the Hearth.
She has gained permission from the Tsaritsa to first use the Gnosis' power once she obtains it.
So, she believes...
That's right. The whole House of the Hearth is currently working to combat that crisis. Today's case has also proven that people from Fontaine can... All of us house members here. To us orphans, the only connection...
So, from small deeds like distributing magic pop...
It's alright. I understand. I just hope you can understand that even as a member of the House, I have never stopped. If you should need anything at all in the future, feel free to find me.
Bye, Linny!
Hey there! What was with the disappearing act you pulled right as the trial ended?
Were you looking for...
Well, this whole thing isn't exactly over, is it? I do feel that we're getting... Huh? What's wrong, my dear partner?
Besides, are you sure we're the ones who can crack a case that's been... And given that there's new evidence from the trial, there should be a trail of breadcrumbs for the...
Ah, I see. Well, I won't. Sorry. I might have been too...
Don't say that, Navi.
Aw, and we were having so much fun investigating with you, too. It was like having new waters flowing into a stagnant mire, causing new hope to spring forth, and the reflection in the Sorry about that. Wait, shall we have a farewell meal?
Huh? Do we really need to get that far?
Well, I'd just like to have a proper ending to every... Anyway, it would just be a meal, so it shouldn't take up too much of your time.
You don't have to twist my...
Oh, wonderful. In that case, why don't we return to the court...
All right, then. Let's have our...
Yeah.